take the whole container and put a brand new clean one. And so this would be sort of, again, another sort of form of innovation in the grease hauling industry. And something that I think, again, as this whole industry matures, that it'll become more and more standard practice. It's kind of like, what glass and paper recycling is in this country today. When we were kids growing up, let's say in the 70s or 80s, that was definitely not common. And eventually, I think what we'll get to is sort of what Germany has. If you go to a German home, they're not just recycling, glass and paper. I mean, they have like 8 different bins in front of the home, and grease is one of those sort of things. I've had discussions with the mayor of Aurora, which, by the way, I don't know if you know, Aurora is the second biggest city in the entire state of Illinois, after Chicago. I thought it was like Rockford or Springfield, but it's actually Aurora. And so he is looking to sort of implement a program like that. And I think it's, as we get these sort of small home runs, these small sort of pilot projects that are successful, this will become much more mainstream. Question?
Yeah, just you talk about the trucks picking up the grease at the restaurant. You turn it like a hose. Doesn't the grease congeal in the container?
Yeah, as I said, the tip is heated, so that it also sort of depends on the season. I mean, in the summertime it won't. So there are a couple ways to handle that. Is that if it was wintertime and that was sort of a problem, this sort of robotic arm could kind of come pick it up and bring it back to the plant and we could thaw it. But there are ways to sort of deal with that. It doesn't always congeal. It really sort of depends.
Just an idea, why don't you make this modular blocks that can lock together so you just pick them up and take them to the plant. You don't have to dump them until you get to the plant, and then you just put new ones out. You don't have any rollers or anything on it. They're like little blocks that fit together.
I'd love to talk to you about that.
She's been playing Legos.
Okay. On that point, I've had some conversations with the pharmaceutical industry, is that how medicines are sort of transported in the U.S. They have these sort of like circular kind of sort of units, kind of looking like our sort of symbol. And so one idea I had, and what they do is that they just throw them away into landfills after the medicines are sort of delivered in the packages. So it's a huge waste that the pharmaceutical industry has. And so one thing I was sort of had a talk with Abbott once about was that, hey, what if we took those sort of spherical containers and reused them and used them for sort of grease collection? So there are a lot of ways to get creative on this, of having less refuse overall. So it's something that definitely, there are a lot of different opportunities here. And it's something that, once you get to a certain critical mass of where we, let's say, millions of these, or the whole industry needs millions of these containers as more communities get behind this, it's the kind of thing where I can see a lot of industries sort of working together and sort of, coming together for the common good.
Maybe we put up the questions now.
Sure,
Maybe
sure.
the last couple of slides, yeah.
Okay, this is one of my favorite slides. Locally produced, locally consumed. And this is really one of the sort of central tenets of FOSS, what we're trying to do in this sort of inclusive capitalism idea. So what I mean by that is, let's say we had a plant here in River Forest. Within a 10-mile radius, we would want to source all of our grease. We also would want to hire people that live in this community. And we would want to sell the biodiesel back to this community, all within, let's say, a 10-mile radius. People ask me, who would you want to hire? The first people I want to hire are U.S. veterans. To me, this is a real travesty, but do you know who most of the homeless in this country are? U.S. veterans. We asked the men and women of the United States Armed Forces to go serve in some desert and take a bullet for us. And yet when they come back, finish their duty, what do we do for them? We're not even giving them proper health care. And if they do get a job, they're usually sort of underemployed, and many of them are unemployed. And there's a certain breaking point for every human being that if you're not sort of respected and taken care of, that you mentally might snap. And you can have a lot of bad things sort of happen with someone with great training like that. Not only is their resume perfect for what we're doing, logistics and operations are sort of the core of what a soldier would know. But it's a way to sort of honor them, is that not only are you going to have a green-collar job, but it's a way, what I often like to say is that our factory floor has now become the new front line, is that we don't have to raise a gun or fire a single bullet to win this war. That as we get energy independence, we will get national security. Most of our foreign policy is based on where the fuel in the world is. So rather than putting dictators in power and then 40 years later taking them out of power, our factory floor is how we don't have to deal with any of that. And so what mayors love is that we now create jobs, we create a tax base, create a sense of pride. You know, this is made in America. You look at most of the electronics in this country. Where are they made? Either they're made in Japan or Korea or China. You go to Walmart, and you know we want to take a lot of pride in Walmart being such a huge American empire. Where's most of that stuff made? ABC News had sort of a special a few weeks ago where they went into an average-sized American home, and they asked the family, hey, do you know where most of your stuff is made? You know, everything from the bed sheets to the couch and the TV. I think the only thing that was left was like this little solo cup. I mean, most of the stuff was made overseas. And as I said, you know, this also leads to national security. Now, what does it reduce on? Reduce on cost, especially transportation costs. That if you're making things locally, I'm not using big oil sort of methodology where you produce everything in Texas, then you ship it all across the country. Like, remember that 10-mile radius I was talking about? Obviously, with that comes less environmental damage, the less CO2 emissions, the less trucks on the road, and obviously there's less traffic congestion. So it's positive all around. Why don't we take questions now? Sure.
So I will bring the microphone to you, or if they have assistants to do that. So. So first question? Oh, the video that started. Thank you.
I'm thrilled with what you're doing. I don't understand now. I'm thrilled with what you're doing. I want to know if you've talked to the car industries who's making diesels. I used to drive a little diesel Rabbit, the best car I ever had, but I can't even find one today. So that's a big part of this too, a vehicle being available. So
I haven't yet, but that is something that I know, like companies like Audi and Volkswagen, they're looking to raise awareness of diesel in this country. But like I said, they also realize how entrenched big oil is in this country. And I think Audi had a Super Bowl commercial on, I think last year. It was a white A3, and they were talking about the virtues of that. But yes, you're right. That's where sort of this sort of partnership and sort of maybe even sponsorship from a big company like, you know, sort of Volkswagen would be sort of like the GM of Germany. And I'm sure they would be interested. It's something that, somewhere down the line I have to get to.
I'm afraid I'll lose the microphone if I don't make this point now. I thought these people would be here earlier, and I did want to introduce them. And I think, Manish, you need to meet two incredibly beautiful people who have entered the room. One is Barbara Fleming, who has a company called Pureed Life. And the other is Jerry McLaughlin, and both of those ladies are incredibly gifted and talented in the whole concept of dirt and topsoil. What are we doing to our topsoil? What are we doing to our dirt in this country? And how is it affecting our health? And I think there's a great synergy here between Barbara and Jerry and Manish. Manish was taught gave a lecture on this very material.